Welcome to the Raw Food Health Empowerment Podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Salmon, certified holistic health coach and author of You Can Afford to Be Healthy. And this podcast looks at a holistic approach to health from a multi-generational and multinational perspective of women of color. Today we're talking about, the title of this episode is, Are You Constantly Hungry and Fatigued? I hear that, and I know you recently heard it from a friend when you posted that video of what, juicing beets. Did you make a salad from the beet greens, or did you juice the beets? What did you do with them?
I juice the beets. That I only use juice the beet. But I use beet. I make salad. Beet, and I like raw beet, and I like raw carrots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to cook them. I like them raw.
Yeah.
So I grate them and eat them raw.
And since you mentioned that, in the self-care salon, there's a Facebook group that goes with the self-care salon program. And there is a recipe there. I don't know if you saw it, of some 3 different salad dressings. And one of them includes using beet and celery and carrots. Actually, 2 different ones. One of them uses beet and the other one uses celery and carrots. I don't know if you saw it.
No, but I don't know if I would like that, because that would be my base for the salad anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
The carrot, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for folks who aren't getting it in, that's another way to get it in.
Yeah, the dressing is not enough for me. You understand? It wouldn't be enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I like the fiber that you get from the beets and the carrots,
Mm-hmm.
plus the nutrition value. And you have to really have a certain amount. You can't just sprinkle it like they sprinkle salad dressing. That's what I'm talking about.
Mm. For me, I like, like celery, for example, there's only certain ways that I like celery. I don't like to eat celery by itself. That's just a personal thing. I just cannot eat celery by itself. Juiced, I can do, and it tastes really good. I've never tried it in a salad dressing, which I will. And or like I've tried it in like the tuna, the raw vegan tuna thing I did on one of these episodes with uh sesame seeds, and actually the episode I did had chickpeas, but there's different ways you could do it with sesame seeds, and I've done both of those ways. And it works in that recipe, but that's more like a pate kind of thing, because you're making like
But
basically like a mock tuna.
the celery is good with nut butter. Like if you're having peanut butter, you dip it and bite it.
Yeah, some people like that.
Well, I do. That's what I
Yeah.
like.
And it's like, so there's just so many different ways you can get in these healthy fruits and vegetables, regardless of like, how. So it's like you could say, oh, I don't like celery, which is what I said before. I used to say that, but then I had it in a juice and it was delicious. I've used it in juices.
I've never drank the juice by itself, just celery and put
Yes, it's
in
so
there.
good.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like it in soup also. Like when I make soup, I like it in soup, and a lot of it too.
Mm-hmm.
It keep you very hydrated.
Yeah, there's a lot of water in it. And so your friend that responded to what you did on social media, her response was basically like she tried it, but she's so hungry that she had to go back to eating, all the other stuff that she's used to eating. Now, what I think normally happens with folks, why they end up in this situation, is because they're doing it wrong, obviously. Because if you're constantly hungry, eating healthy, then your version of healthy, then obviously it's not sustainable, right? So there's 2 different, I like to look at these 2 different ways, because sometimes people say they're hungry and they're not really hungry. There's like a craving inside, because they remember emotionally how they used to feel eating a certain food that they no longer can have, so they feel hungry, or they no longer want to have because of dietary restrictions, because of health issues or whatever. Like for example, when you think of, I don't know what it, obviously for everybody it's going to be something different, but like, cereal, for example, since that was like a main thing I had for breakfast as a child, hot milk with frosted flakes or honey nut Cheerios. So you get this comfort from the warmth and the sweetness, and everything is mixed. And it took me a long time to get over that. And I think I've talked on a few episodes how I was able to separate myself and get myself out of that addiction. um because the way the sugar makes you feel, and then the hot milk brings the sugar intensity even more, and the warmth. I used to say it felt like a hug from the inside. So it's like an emotional thing. Even, this thing is damaging my body, my brain, my teeth. It's messing me up. I feel like crap. I'm not able to be productive, but you miss how you felt when you ate it. And so that's where, like, with clients, I like to dig into, like, okay, what is the feeling that you're looking for? What feeling did it give you? And for me, this thing gave me comfort. you know
Mm.
it gave me comfort. It made me feel loved. um and there are some clean foods that help you do that, right? So the bridge for me was, one, finding some healthier cereals, and then also making sure that my meals had sweet, warm stuff. So I
R-
wasn't going to do cereal, but I was going to still keep sweet and warm for that feeling. And what does that look like? That's sweet potatoes, making
Exactly.
sure I always have sweet potatoes in my meals. And so for this woman, let's say this woman had the same kind of feeling like me. And normally too, like, what I think with most people, they're used to feeling heavy after they eat. And when you eat raw foods, you're not going to there's no heaviness
There's
there.
some happiness. There's a lot of energy.
There's energy, yeah.
Energy. Yeah.
So when you're in the beginning, and like, or you need that heaviness to feel like completion of a meal, then that's where you want, stuff like your tubers, your root vegetables. They get you grounded, they kind of, you know
Or like,
so your
yeah,
sweet
like
potatoes, your
that.
yams, which you can add in your salad. You
Yes.
can add your nuts. You can
Mhm.
even caramelize, not caramel. I don't know if it's caramelize or maple glaze. I don't know what you call it, but I've done it before where put pecans and maple syrup on a skillet, and you warm it, and it kind of like, and you put that on your salad. I'm telling you, it's an experience,
Uh, but I'm gonna say something about my friend and that. You see,
Yeah.
it's a different situation because that person never leave from the way they used to eat. They're eating the same way. So it's different.
She has no desire.
They already have this stuff right there. So she have choices. She looking and
Mhm.
she, you know,
I
so
think I think too, some people need someone to hold their hand, because especially when they express to you that, hey, I saw, not only did I see what you did, but I tried to mimic it. It didn't work, and here's my struggle. That is really an open door invitation, saying that someone actually is interested. They just really have no clue how. And I understand, because you don't get, especially in the Black community, in immigrant communities, we're not really given, so many examples of how to do this, how to eat in this type of way. Like like the best example that I would give someone, and I'm a name drop a company here because I really love their business model and I love their offerings. It's not a vegan establishment, but they have vegan options, and it's Sweet Green.
sweet
Sweet
green.
Green
So yours
is,
That, yes.
Yes. The way they do a salad is basically like how I used to do a salad, but they took that and made that a whole business model and just spread it all over the country. So in a lot of major cities, it's there. If you want to really experience, because that's what I tell people, like the easiest way to kind of figure out how healthy eating could work for you is by actually going out and eating from people who are really skilled in the kitchen,
You learn.
at healthy eating establishments. Then you get to learn and have your first experience be enjoyable, so that when you look at the food again, instead of feeling like all of this, like, oh, it's not going to be good, you're doubting, you now more open because you've actually experienced it tasting good. you
Mm,
know you know what works well together, what you like together.
exactly. Exactly. But as I say, it's a different situation. It's like peach and potatoes
And it's
because
never too late for
it's
folks.
not that it's too late, but I'm just saying that it's like you have a child and you're tempting the child. You give the child too much choices, and the kid know, okay, so I have a choice. Why should I do this when I have this?
Mhm.
So,
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, we're all big kids. You
uh-huh,
know what I'm saying? We're all big kids under under a lot of indoctrination that's going on. So the way people are eating has a lot to do with marketing messaging, how they were raised, what they ate growing up, like the different influences that were around them as a youth, and then as they grew older. So there's a lot that goes into it. um but the same way you found enlightenment, other people find enlightenment.
oh
I
yeah,
used to say, I forget how this came up recently in my life, but I was having a conversation with someone, and I remembered I used to say it's not a meal unless it has chicken in it. I remember I used to say that, and look
well,
at me now.
well, some, some people would says it's not a dinner if there's no meat, and I would say it's not a meal if you don't have a salad. Because I always call a meal without a salad, whether the person have a setting of meat, because I don't choose for people.
Hmm.
But if I go to a setting and you only have meat on the table, it's not a meal.
Yeah.
The salad give you such a big choice. Because let's say somebody is there and they want salad and their meat. Okay, I don't push meat, but if they want meat, you eat your meat. But let's say I want salad and some rice and peas. I have a meal.
Hmm.
So it cannot be a meal unless the salad is on the table.
And this is so true, because really, ultimately, the reason why you would eat and feel hungry could also be a huge portion of Americans is because they're not getting micronutrients. And you're
Exactly.
not going to get that micronutrients from eating meat, right?
Exactly.
So there's a few things. There's because I've seen this even in our family. We've had a family gathering, I don't know, within the last year or two or something, where there was all the food, it was meat and breads, and I'm
Hmm.
like, dang, no wonder we have high rates of cancer. First of all, without greens, your bowels, it's really hard to have a bowel movement without any kind of vegetables, right? And without having a bowel movement, you're at higher risk for colon cancer.
And this is why I tell you I love my vert so much. Did you hear I talk the story about the vert?
The omega vert, your juicer.
Yeah. Because vert remind me that when you juice in the vert, you remind me of how the colon shape. That's how the trash comes out. And
Hmm.
vert is such a good example of teaching people how important it is to have vegetable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, we need micronutrients. And yes, your palate changes, your gut bacteria change, and so your cravings for things change. Like I went from being the person saying it's not a meal unless it has chicken to
Hmm.
now saying I don't feel satisfied eating unless I have some vegetables for the day. It has to come in any kind of form. Either I had the greens in a smoothie, or I had the greens in a juice, or I had an actual salad, but I need to have greens. If I didn't have greens for the day, by 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I feel horrible. I feel like crap. I feel like I didn't eat, or I ate just trash. I ate just sugar or something for the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, just I just feel horrible inside. um and so the body starts to crave healthy foods. It starts because it's now all that trash has been cleaned out, and it starts to work better, so
I
just
I
baby
don't have
steps.
I don't have those problem of hungry to snack, because you have to, as I said before, plan your meals. This way you don't get into that snack business. Cause, but if you even snack, what you gonna snack on? Some apples or some kind of fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and I know that even in the group we're sharing recipes on raw vegan pretzels. Like, if you all the things you used to like you can make it. And the one of the recipes has only 3 ingredients, using flax seeds, which is one of your favorite, rich in omega 3s, which is your healthy omega 3 fats, great for your brain, um and with none of the junk of like mainstream pretzels. So there are some healthy snack options that you can make in advance, take with you to wherever, if you need to have that. But yeah, like, I personally like to have meals because I like to eat and I like to be satisfied. So like, the little here and little there just doesn't do it for me. Like, I want to,
Yeah.
um so I do actual home meals, and that they tend to last me 3-4 hours. So I don't typically snack in between meals. What I do is drink lots of water.
Which is very good.
Yes. So
Yes.
that, because I'm drinking water throughout the day, my wants for snacking is not really there.
Mm-hmm. Cause the water keep fill you up.
Yeah, keeps me
Yeah.
satisfied.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think additionally with that, with the feeling hungry all the time, I feel like food, especially with food in particular, people use food for brain stimulation, some kind of excitement, or like they're bored, there's nothing else to do, so why don't we eat? Because that's kind of like the culture we've been in since the 90s. Let's eat. It's not like we're hungry or it's mealtime, but it's just there's nothing else to do, you know?
Well, let's
And
give God thanks. And I said, let everyone give God thanks they have food they can eat.
yeah, with
Can
such abandon like that, with that there's no rationing or any concern of that will be running out, and we have to somehow conserve resources.
especially since COVID-19, a lot of people really do a lot of snacking and eating and because what else you gonna do? You can't go outside. I mean, they're trying to loosen up things now, but it's things are going back to like what it was in 2020, and it's kind of sad.
You talking about the numbers?
Yes,
Hmm.
especially in New York, because
Yeah,
people
in LA, the numbers, I don't think the numbers got better necessarily, but we're in the orange zone and about to be in the yellow zone. So
but
we're
the
opening up.
orange zone. Oh yeah, but I mean, it's people still dying and getting sick from this thing. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that needs to be done there, but in terms of the eating for entertainment and brain stimulation, I would recommend, um instead of turning to food, right? Because most of the folks listening and in the Facebook group are looking for weight loss. That's what I hear all the time. I need help with healthy eating and losing weight. And I know personally on my journey with the way I was eating food, and of course I was raised that way. Like I said before, in our house we had 2 kitchens, 2 refrigerators. We went to Costco, so there was always lots of food there. I could just eat, and it was a good time. So I got that. I came into my adult life where, you know, if you want a good time, eat and be merry, you know, just eat. But then I started to feel guilty. I felt like, wow, this is one of the seven deadly sins, right? Gluttony. And I'm eating with such reckless abandon, and even eating clean, I could do this because I'm not gaining weight. I'm not going to be obese. I know that because trust, I definitely ate a lot, especially in the beginning. And because of the types of foods I was eating, my weight stays stable. And so
Mm.
that's the first thing I want to tell for folks who feel like they have so much weight to lose. Like, when you eat clean, you're eating raw, you're eating high raw, your body has no other option but to release the excess fat.
Exactly. Along with
So
along with exercise, because they work together.
the exercise is really great for your mental health, but even if you didn't do any exercise, the fat comes off.
The
The
fat comes up.
excess fat comes off and you get to your healthy body weight.
Exactly.
Now, so it's like you don't have to be so much concerned about a food addiction. You just need to be concerned about the choices, right? So, but now if you're over that, the choices are good, but you still feel bad about the food addiction, which is where I was, right? It's like, you know, I could get so much more done in my day if I wasn't eating so much, you know? um but this is where life comes into play. Instead of being on the computer so much, you know, which makes you want to eat. I know from my experience, it makes me want to eat when I'm on the computer. I don't know if it's these like fast lines and stuff going on through the screen. Maybe I need some EMF blockers or whatever, blue blockers or whatever glasses. But um going outside, being more in nature, like actually shutting down, you know, digital devices and connecting with your family members, like talking to them face to face and like having real, you know, like real life interaction and
Right.
conversations.
Yeah.
Going to community events, you know, reading a book, like an actual book with pages,
Yes.
you know, like we used to do back in the day.
Exactly.
Instead of being on Kindle. Kindle is so convenient, but I think the healthy revolution is going back to how we used to do things, old school.
Do you know that when you take up a book and turn the pages, it's more relaxing to reading that way?
Mhm.
And help you to really come off this social media. Because anyhow you look at Kindle, it's still social media. You're holding a thing in your hand and you're not, and I don't care what anybody want to say. It might be Kindle, it's a book, yeah, but it's a piece of equipment you're holding in your hand. I love turning the pages. The
Yeah.
actual paper, I like to move that paper.
Yeah, they have when I think when Kindle first came out, they had these Kindle readers, like the Nook and whatnot,
Mm.
um, where it didn't have blue light coming through and it was trying to mimic actual paper. Now there's a new device that's even more like paper. When you touch it, it feels like paper. You could write on it and it gives the sounds of paper, but it's not really paper. It's like a tablet, you know?
Yeah.
Which is a helpful bridge. I plan to get that. I plan to get, it's like $500, so I plan to get that. But like I have a Kindle reader on my iPhone, and this is just, you know, it's blue light coming in. So if you're reading a book and it's close to nighttime, you're having a hard time sleeping, you know,
Hmm.
but just taking getting off the devices and getting into an actual book, like taking the time out to do that, will I feel like will relax people's nervous system, because that's
Oh,
really self-care.
it's
You're not
you
There's no
curl up here.
notifications popping up anywhere, you know, where that you have to react to, you know. And there's this really good book. I'll put it in the show notes on I think it's called Irresistible or something, but it's about the addictions that we have to
Yeah.
devices and how bad it can be, you know. And the wealthy folks don't even allow their children to be on devices.
The ones who make the devices don't allow their kids to use them.
That's it. they themselves, they don't use it. You have like social media execs and different execs of these tech companies, they not using the stuff, they don't have their kids on devices. And it reminded me a lot about of this other book, The Food Industry, the Fat, Salt, and Sugar book by Michael Moss. Because in that book, he's talking to executives of Nestle and Coca-Cola and these top brands. And these executives do not eat the food that they sell.
Can you imagine?
Why? Because they're concerned about their health.
That is sad.
And it's the same thing going on with these devices, the games, the social media platforms, and all of that. So
That's,
I think everything in balance, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
Because obviously we can't not be on the computer, but there needs to be, like, if you're eating for enjoyment and excitement, that just shows that there's a void in other areas of your life that need
Yeah.
to be filled, whether it's like physical activity, a spiritual practice, community.
Or mental anxiety, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be taking place that food sometimes is a comfort, to whatever the situation might be. But the minute you swallow the last piece, you're going to need some more because the problem is still there.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to find enjoyment in
Food,
other
food
things.
addiction, food addiction can be like drugs though, because I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna share something with you. I mean, and there's people there on the podcast listening, they might have the same problem too. I have an addiction. I'm coming out. I'm addicted to coffee, which I said it before. Now I'm having this palpitation, and I experience. I try to watch my body because I'm a person who watch my body, watch what I eat and everything. So yesterday morning, after I drank the coffee, I felt like I ran a race. And it's a different brand of coffee. I'm not comparing it to it's a certain brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I ran a race. And I said, when I took my blood pressure, I didn't like my heart rate. So I said, okay. And I asked God, when I prayed, I said, God, remind me, please help me, heal me from this. I am giving the coffee a break. I didn't tell him I'm giving it up. No, I'm addicted, right? You can't just, if somebody's addicted to drugs, you can't pull the drugs away from them. So I beg God, I say, help me, help heal me. I want to rid the coffee, like for a while and watch my heart rate. This morning I went down, I didn't have any. And I tell you something, I think that's why I feel tired though. Be honest with you, because the coffee give me a,
Withdrawal. It's
yeah,
withdrawal from it.
it does. Because when I drink it, you can't stop me. I'm going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this morning I didn't have any. And my heart rate was okay. So, as a matter of fact, I didn't have any, and I pick up the coffee pot and I says, I have to have some coffee. And it's like somebody just pulled the pot out my hand, Sam. Put the pot down, and I went and I made myself some green tea, and I put a ginger cube in there, and
Yeah.
that's what I had. So my heart is really at a level right now, right this minute for this day where it. So I'm gonna watch it and see if I can rid the coffee a little. But you see, I went down from 3 cups of coffee to 1 cup of coffee with 1 cup of almond milk. That's how I've been drinking it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like my coffee is diluted, but I have to get healed from that because I'm having rapid heart rate. So, and I know caffeine can cause that. Whether you drink soda, coffee, anything with caffeine.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
drink, and that's the only thing that I have. That's the only addiction I have is coffee addiction. That's the
Yeah.
only addiction I have.
Well,
I'm not.
thank you for sharing that. Like it reminded me of the because I would never say, no one would ever call me a sugar addict, right? But like I told you, with the history of cereal and mostly the cereal, that one, like, it was like really tough to let go of that. Like, I wasn't really into sweets, but the cereal, something with the cereal. But I literally had to write on notes on the wall, you feel like crap when you have refined sugar. You cannot afford to eat refined sugar. Like, it was really messing with my moods and everything. And so, like, when you physically don't feel good, it makes it a little bit easier. But I also had to put reminders everywhere, so it was
Yeah.
stamped on my brain. So it's like, even when I end up in the store, I'm not even going down that aisle. I'm not going down the aisle to look at anything, because that's how an addiction works. It's like, oh, I haven't had it in a while, and maybe I could just do this one time and it's fine. And that was the line that I put. You cannot afford to consume refined sugar.
Because the one time that you think you can do it and it's fine, when you do it that one time, you get drawn back into it.
That's how the addiction works. That's how the addiction works.
So yes, that's the addiction that I have. I am not addicted to food. Like I know I have to eat. I have to eat to maintain my health. And as they say, let medicine be your food, let food be your medicine. So the only thing that I was having, which was not medicine, was my coffee. That's my only addiction. But it seems
Yeah.
like it turned against me.
Yeah. I know.
And
It's a,
there's
but
there's people that if you take coffee away from me, I'm dead.
but there is an alternative, and it's yerba mate. If you want energy without the crash and burn that
What is
coffee.
what is that?
Yerba mate. Remember we talked about it
Yeah,
on the
but
podcast before.
I've never seen that in the store.
Yeah, so go to the tea section, go to Yogi Tea.
Oh, yogi tea, carry.
Yes, and it probably won't say yerba mate on the front. You actually have to read the ingredients. You turn the box around, but positive mood, sweet tangerine, positive mood has it in there. It tastes delicious. You don't need any kind of sweetener. It just tastes really good by itself. And I know for me, like, definitely picks me up if I feel like I'm so tired, I'm done for the day. I drink that tea and it's as if I just woke up. I'm just firing on all cylinders mentally. Um
I
but
don't
you don't
sweet
get any crash or anything.
I don't sweeten tea. I mean, I was like you, but I got healed from sugar. Because sugar was one of my sweets. I shouldn't say sugar. Sweets was one of my weakness. I got healed from that, thank God. Because I don't know where I would be if I was continuing the way I was doing it. Yeah.
When you say sweets, you talking specifically candy?
When I say sweet stuff, I mean uh, cookies, cakes, candies, anything that sugar is in.
Yeah.
I don't even eat candies, no kind of candy. No, even sugar-free candy. I don't mess with candy.
Sugar-free candy is the worst, because
Nobody-
sugar-free, they have research that shows that when you have sugar-free stuff, the people end up eating more food. And so you have overweight folks who are doing sugar-free and they're like, why am I gaining weight? It's because you eating sugar-free.
it's the ones that somebody said once that yeah, the sugar is free. You don't pay for it. There's
A Jamaican came up with that, right? That's what.
yeah, but like I still love cakes and but I don't use regular sugar in my cake. I
Hmm.
use coconut sugar. And I'm questioning it too because I don't understand how coconut sugar is so sweet and it's so dark. I question a lot of things
So
in
the
a
thing the thing with sugar that we're looking at is not about the sweetness. So, like, when we talk about sweetness, there are things in nature that are sweet, and our sweet taste, our attraction to sweet taste on our tongue is from when we are child out the womb. Like, we just like sweet. That's like the first set of taste buds that we get. And this
right.
is normal, this is natural, this is for our survival, because the brain runs on sugar, right?
Mhm.
But we want sugar that's nutrient dense. So you talking about mango, pineapple, banana, apple, grapes. You understand? These things are great. They're full of nutrients and they're colorful. We're attracted. They're juicy. They're hydrating. And they have the sugar for our brains to function. So this is all good. The thing with you when you talk about coconut sugar now, you're talking about a sugar that has gone through a refining process. It's not a whole food. It's not the whole coconut. It's now just the sugar. So it went through a process. The only concerning part where we like to dig into, and we've talked about this in a few episodes, is how exactly did they turn the coconut into the sugar? What did they use? What was the process it went through? What chemicals were added? Were there any chemicals added? um was it heated, like, because if it was heated, if it was basically boiled down, um and depending on what this is, like, let's say it's the juice and somehow they boiled it down and crystallized that, so they turn it into a syrup first. I don't know, I'm just making something up, because I don't really know.
It looks
um
just brown sugar.
yes, and there's a process for that. I'm pretty sure someone has talked about it on YouTube. But once you heat a thing, just like with pasteurized juices, you heat it, all of the
Nutrient
nutrients is
is
gone. All you're left with now is basically like a syrup. It's just the sugar heightened without nutrient value. So now it's just, you know, it's the
there's
the
no new.
side effects outweigh the benefit. So it's kind of like, that's how you kind of have to figure out what you're doing. Now, when we talked on the show, we did an episode about date syrup and how the science shows that this is the healthiest sweetener that you can consume.
Date
And
syrup.
date syrup.
Oh,
Remember
you
we had that conversation? You were like, "Oh, but it's so expensive."
can make your own date syrup though.
Well, share the recipe, mama. Share
Well,
it in the group.
okay. Didn't
The
I tell you?
process.
Didn't I tell you before that I use dates and bake?
Yeah, but how you make the syrup though?
I put it in a smoothie cup
And you just with water?
and blend it out to like syrup.
Hmm.
That's how I make it. And I feel safer with the dates, but the dates are expensive. But your cake don't have to be sweet. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when I use the coconut sugar, I don't use a lot of it. If I'm baking and they say a cup of sugar, I say a cup of sugar, that would kill me in a minute. I would use like 2 tablespoons of sugar in a cake, the 8 by 10 whatever cake size.
Mm-hmm.
But I bake a cake up to yesterday. I bake a cake every week.
So the
But it's
price ain't that bad then of the
what?
ingredients.
No, no, no. And it's healthy. I use the flaxseed, I ground the flaxseed and I mix it in with flour. It's healthy. It's very healthy. I'm gonna take a picture of it one of this day and put the recipe up there for in the group that they can see.
What
That
kind of flour are you using?
I use half and half. I use half whole wheat and I use oat flour. So and then I use the cocoa powder.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I use for my chocolate cake. So it's very healthy. It's nothing unhealthy in it.
If you could get off of all products and you're making everything from scratch, like you're making the syrup, the agave, the
It
date
works.
syrup
Yes.
from scratch.
If they tell you to use almond milk, like let's say they say all you need for this baking is 1 cup of almond milk. Use your 1 cup of almond milk and blend up your dates in there
Mm-hmm.
to make your syrup.
Yeah.
It, it's because how you think people come up with recipe? They make their own recipe and put.
Yeah,
That's, that's
exactly. Exactly. And that's the solution. That's how you basically make sure you're not constantly hungry and fatigued. This whole episode hopefully helped you learn how to put meals together that are healthy, that are satisfying, that is energy giving.
yes. Because remember, I'm coming from a place where you take coconut and you boil it down and make your own. Cook your coconut down to whatever you want it, whatever it calls recipe call for to get coconut oil. You cook your coconut down, you get your oil out of it. You get what I'm saying? Although, then you can juice your coconut and use the milk instead of oil because I bake like that.
Mm.
If it asks, if it calls for coconut oil, I use the coconut milk like oil because in that milk, the oil is in there. You get it?
Mm-hmm. And that's for what? To make what?
Um, let's say I'm baking a cake because I did that before, and it says you need a quarter cup of coconut oil. I do the fresh coconut and I use coconut milk instead of coconut oil because the oil is in that milk.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
don't need any more oil than that.
And the texture is the same.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's delicious. Nice texture. Very nice. Because, these are the things you have control over.
Yeah.
You control your kitchen. It's like nobody cannot tell you what to eat if you know what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You substitute this for that because this is healthier. I don't trust coconut oil. I'm telling you why, though, because as I said, we boil coconut. And when I boil a whole coconut, I get a little bit of oil out of it. Now, when they send you a 1 pound jar of oil, sometimes it's $8. And I'm saying, even if you do 8 coconut, you would never fill this bottle.
Yeah, it's a lot of coconut. So what you think going on?
Something fishy going on. You can't tell me that coconut make coconut that cheap. No, something fishy going on.
Mm-hmm.
Very fishy.
I've seen I forget where it was. There was some video of they had monkeys that they would use
Oh
to
my, I
climb
saw
the
it in the coconut.
yes.
Oh
So
my
they
gee.
so there's like activists against it trying to get the company to stop, but they would because the company says that people climbing the trees for the coconut is too dangerous, so they have the monkeys doing it.
Is the
And
monkey getting paid?
and I don't think these monkeys are getting paid. So that's one of the ways I could see how you know the coconut oil could be so cheap.
That's really slave labor. No, you'd have to boil a lot of coconut to get that much oil to put. No,
And then there's fillers, people adding stuff to things to make it to increase the profit margin. How much can you get away with where before folks start to realize, because this does happen, in the
all the time.
industry, in the food industry. So
Yeah,
so yeah.
all the time.